Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the April Steering Legislative and Governmental Committee meeting to order. First item of business, I'll call on Vice Chairman Commissioner Gooch for approval of our minutes.
Motion to approve those minutes, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we need to fill 4 vacancies on the Equalization Board. Commissioners, I believe you have before you on your iPad, as well as emailed out to you, 5 applications for appointment. Those being David Adams, Tim Rudd, Delia Goodman, John Barbie, and Mr. Jim Baker. Yeah, they were presented in that order. As we always do, we'd like to go through this list of applicants. If the applicants are here to address the committee in the order that I just mentioned you. We'll start with Mr. David Adams.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, I appreciate the appointment in years past, and this is a very important board, and I've enjoyed serving on it the past few years. And I look forward to also helping the citizens of Rutherford County.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Any questions for Mr. Adams at this time? Mr. Rudd?
Well, you, as you remember, appointed me to fill a vacancy of a term that had not expired yet, and I'd like to be appointed to a full term. I really enjoyed doing it. My real estate background, I think, lent to the board, plus I learned a lot on the board that I didn't even know. So that's a lot goes into the assessments. I really enjoyed it, and you got a fine board to work with, and I appreciate your appointment.
Any questions for Mr. Rudd at this time? All right, Ms. Goodman?
Well, as a rural landowner and resident and a member of the Soil Conservation Board and the Stormwater Committee, I'm hoping that my experience would be of use and give something extra maybe to the board that's not there now.
Thank you, Ms. Goodman. Any questions for Ms. Goodman? Seeing none. Mr. Barbie?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I believe that the number of years that I have served with the county, and especially in the assessor's office, I believe I can, at this point in time, make a positive contribution to the county. This board deals with a lot of tax reps who care nothing about Rutherford County, and in my experience in the past at this board, I know some of the tales that these people come in and tell the board, and I believe my appraisal background and the experience at the assessor's office will make a good contribution to the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barbie. Any questions for Mr. Barbie at this time? All right, Mr. Baker?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Having served several years on the board now, it's been a learning experience for me, but I think it is very valuable service to the county. Requires quite a bit of study. We don't ever have anybody come before our board that's happy. They want their taxes increased and such. So you might, if you're on this board, you might well understand that. But it does require quite a bit of thought and expertise and looking at the situation, because there is a wide variance in what people think their taxes ought to be under it. So I've appreciated the ability to serve and would continue to serve.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Any questions for Mr. Baker? Any questions for any of the applicants?
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes, sir.
We got 5 fine candidates here. Is there any way, supposedly, it could be an alternate just in case? I know it's a 2-week time period when we do this. Maybe, I don't know, you would have to go in more detail about that.
Yes, sir. Last year, the legislature passed a law that allowed for the appointment of alternates. So 4 appointees and 1 alternate.
the county could do if they so chose. The alternate would only serve in the absence of a vacancy where someone was unable to come in. And last year, we did have a few days that we did have some vacancies where people weren't able to attend because of other commitments. So that would always ensure that we had a completely full board and everybody represented if we did go ahead and elect an alternate.
Thank you, Commissioner Black.
Would any of the 5 people like to be that alternate? I'd like to know that. Probably not, but maybe so. They need to speak up right now, otherwise I'm gonna make a motion.
Well, would we have to announce that? I mean, you just can't
Yeah, I guess we have
announce
to.
that we're going, tonight we're going to do an alternate.
That's a good point, Commissioner Gay. We could do that. We could just announce that vacancy for the alternate position tonight, and we'd have to
Elect
fill that
4
next
and
month.
announce a vacancy for the alternate the next time.
Well, to me, these 5 are interested and made application, then, I mean, we could put 4 in and put the other one as alternate if we wanted to do that at this point. To me, I mean, instead of opening it back up, these are the ones that have jumped out there and wanted to get in the middle of it now.
Yeah. Well, I definitely agree with that, Commissioner Sandlin. My concern would be not posting the vacancy,
Yeah.
Following our typical protocol for announcing it and then filling it. All right, do we have a motion on, we have 4 vacancies for the Equalization Board, and we have 5 applicants.
I make a motion, we nominate all 5, vote on 4, and the one with the least votes gets the vacancy. I mean, gets the alternate job, sorry.
Can't do that. I thought we just said we couldn't do that.
I don't feel like we can.
Not legally.
So then we come back in afterwards? I mean,
What I'm saying is we need to announce that vacancy. We could announce that vacancy this month and then fill it next month.
And before we vote, I would suggest to whoever is not appointed this time, go ahead and apply. I'll say that before we vote, because we've got 5 people here that are absolutely qualified.
oh, yeah.
We have a motion. Do we have a second on that motion? Or do you want to amend your
I'll
motion?
amend it to nominate all 5, vote for 4 then.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Any questions for any of our applicants? All right.
Chairman.
I'm sorry.
Excuse me for interrupting, but I can volunteer to be the alternate. I think you've got 5, including myself, good applicants, and I don't have any desire to put y'all on hot seat.
Well, we're not on the hot seat, and you can't do, you can do that if you want to, but we're gonna have to, as I understand it, we're gonna have to advertise that spot, and then you need to apply.
We just need to reapply for the alternate
I don't
position.
know, but she might not have to reply, apply.
That's right. You can withdraw your application if you want to for this spot and reapply for next time. I'm not suggesting you do that. I'm just saying you can do that if you want to.
I say.
Let's give her a minute to think about it. I'd like to get all 5 of these people.
Well, I mean, she could always, let's go through the vote, and then she can reply next and apply.
That's correct.
And here we are.
What kind of time frame we got on these 5? What's the drop dead date and appoint these 5? Or 4, or whatever?
Well, they will start training next month prior to the Board of Equalization on June 1st. So depending of when the state holds their training classes, you may have time to get an alternate selected or not
Yeah,
before then.
that's what I was looking at.
They haven't said when the classes are gonna be, when they're gonna have the training session, but usually it's,
Around June.
Okay. We have, yes, we have a motion and a second to nominate all 5 and vote on 4. Call the roll.
Commissioner Black,
Ms. Goodman, Mr. Baker, Mr. Rudd, Mr. Adams.
Commissioner Farley,
Ms. Goodman, Mr. Rudd, Mr. Barbie, Mr. Baker.
Commissioner Gooch,
Mr. Adams, Mr. Rudd, Mrs. Goodman, and Mr. Baker.
Commissioner Jordan,
Ms. Goodman, Mr. Baker, Mr. Barbie, Mr. Rudd.
Commissioner McAdoo,
Mr. Rudd, Mr. Adams, Ms. Goodman, and Mr. Baker.
Commissioner Sandlin,
Mr. Rudd, Ms. Goodman, Mr. Barbie, and Mr. Baker.
Commissioner Coggin,
Mr. Adams, Mr. Baker, Ms. Goodman, Mr. Rudd.
Rudd, Goodman, Baker, and Adams.
All right. Mr. Adams, Mr. Rudd, Ms. Goodman, and Mr. Baker will be recommended to the full commission on April 17th at our full commission meeting. Thank you all 5 for applying for this board. We appreciate your service to the county. Next item of business is to fill a vacancy on the school board to fill the unexpired term of Ms. Helen Blankenship. That term is set to expire August of 2016. However, as we said and clarified last time and at the commission meeting, this appointment will only last through August of 2014, where there will be a special election coinciding with the county elections, county general elections, to fill this term. We have 2 applicants for this vacancy, Donald Jernigan and Lisa Moore. We'll follow the same sequence of events for this application we did for the previous one. I'll call on Mr. Jernigan, if you'd care to address the committee.
Well, I'm terribly sorry that this appointment is necessary. We lost a very valuable member of the community. But I gave it some thought and have been elected twice by the zone for a short period of time of only approximately 4 months. I thought maybe I could be of service and jump in and take care of business for that period of time. I knew that I could not make a commitment for a long period of time, but I thought this would be appropriate for me to apply for a short period, and I elected to do so. And I enjoyed my time on the school board and enjoyed working with the people of the zone. I enjoyed education and still do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jernigan. Any questions for Mr. Jernigan? Commissioner
Mr.
Sanders?
Jernigan, would you be seeking the election at the end of this term then for that school board position?
No, sir, I will not.
Okay.
How many years, before getting on the board, how many years did you have in the school system, and what positions did you hold?
My positions, I was a teacher in the 7th grade, life science. Then I taught industrial arts to the 9th grade for 9 years. I was a teacher at John Price Buchanan for 4 years and taught 5th grade through 8th grade. Then I became assistant principal at Thurman Francis, which I served for about 5 years. Moved to Central Middle School and worked there as assistant principal for 2 years. Mr. Howe, the principal at Thurman Francis, passed away. And I went back as principal of Thurman Francis. When they closed it as a junior high, I became principal of Smyrna Middle School. And I can truly say I never had a bad job. I enjoyed every one of them I had in the school system. And it continued when I was on the school board. I enjoyed that as well. And that was a total of 40 years.
Just to sum it all up, you know. Yeah.
Can anyone ask questions from the floor? Excuse my ignorance, but I'm not.
No, there's just questions from the committee.
Thanks.
Any other questions from the committee? All right, Lisa Moore.
Commissioners, I thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak with you this evening and to submit my application for this position. My name is Lisa Moore. I have lived here in Murfreesboro for over 35 years now. I think I'm uniquely qualified for this position for several reasons. First of all, I am running for the election in August. I have qualified for the ballot. My husband and I have been married for over 28 years. We have 2 children that we've raised through grade school, and an older son that's in college now, and a younger son that's in middle school at Whitworth Buchanan. So I think I bring a unique perspective, or will bring a unique perspective to the board from a parent standpoint. As of right now, our Rutherford County School Board actually, to my knowledge, does not have an individual on it that actually has a child in the Rutherford County school system. So I think I bring that perspective along with my corporate background. I've been committed to and involved in this community for all the years that I've been here in the corporate arena. I've served in management level positions for a large corporation here in Murfreesboro. Had the opportunity to do a lot of adult level training in that position. I have not ever taught school, but I think with the combination of those backgrounds and my passion for our children's education and for helping Rutherford County schools, our experience with the schools that we've worked with over the years with our sons has been tremendous. We've had terrific experiences with the principals and the teachers. So Rutherford County does a great job with that. But I do think that there is work to be done with all of the issues that are going on, and I can bring a good perspective to that. I have served on several PTOs as a parent and also as an officer. Back a number of years ago when our older son was in school, my husband and I were asked, and I believe it was out of respect for both our parenting as well as our leadership abilities that we showed on the PTO, to serve on a parent advisory board for the city school system for the after schools program, which we happily served on that for 2 years. So anyway, I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Any questions for Ms. Moore?
I got one.
All right.
Yes, sir.
You said you were going to run, part of this area is a district that I represent at this time. And do you know of, I haven't checked, but I've heard rumors. Is there, how many people are going to be running in this district? Do you know?
My understanding is that there are 3 candidates that have qualified for this.
3?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I'll tell you, the reason I asked that question is, and I'll just be very honest with you and forthcoming. My thought is at this time is, since I am representing a third of this district, I'm having a little bit of trouble. And I'm not saying I'm for or against you or whoever's running or not. All I'm saying is, I think I, as a commissioner in that area, would have a hard time putting one candidate over another candidate is kind of where I'm at right now. And I do appreciate you
Sure.
applying, and I also appreciate you running as an elected official, because it's a hard job. You have to make hard decisions.
I understand, and
And,
I respect that, thank you
So,
for that.
and that's kind of my thought right now, and I just wanted to voice that at this time, so.
Okay, appreciate it, thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Moore? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
I'd like, before we
Yes, sir.
motion, I'd just like to tell Ms. Buchanan and Mr. Jones that withdrawal, I appreciate them putting in, and I also appreciate what, withdrawing and all. I know Ms. Moore, I feel kind of like Commissioner Farley there. I know she's well qualified. I think it'll put it all on an even playing field, this upcoming election. And that's all I'm going to say.
Thank you, Commissioner Black.
Appreciate Mr. Holden as well. He's not with us tonight, but he's served the Buchanan area as PTO president, and has been very active in that area, and of course ran the last election. And he also withdrew his application. I don't think he's going to run, but I don't know that. I don't know that. I don't know any of the candidates except Ms. Moore just said she was running. That's the only one that I know. And put another way, and we went through this just recently with Mr. Eads. Right. I'm just going to say it a different way. I'll just say for me, I'm reluctant to stand in place of the voter if I don't have to. And in Mr. Eads' case, we didn't have to. And and you said an even playing field, which was well worded. I wish you luck, Ms. Moore, in your race, and I believe Ms. Buchanan is running as well. I wish you luck too, so we both of you got my best wishes. And I don't know who's the other candidate. I don't know.
Howard Jones?
Hi, Mr. Jones.
Okay, all right, Mr. Jones. Okay, I didn't know what he withdrew his nomination, his application. I didn't know whether he was running or not. So, okay, that's just all I want to say. We are reluctant to stand in place of the voter, and we don't have to in this case. And that's why I'll be voting for Mr. Jones. But nothing against Ms. Moore at all.
All right, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we nominate and vote for Donald Jernigan as representative for the school board.
Second.
A motion and a second to nominate Donald Jernigan for the vacancy of the school board. Any discussion on the motion?
Well, my thoughts as well to Ms. Moore. Good luck, and all the others that are running, and jump out there and get it. But I do commend you as well for backing out, and with Mr. Jernigan having the experience. I think at budget time right here when it's pretty tough times, and that's one of is the biggest part of our budget is the school budget. So I appreciate you, and good luck in the race. Well done. Thank you.
All right, any other discussion? All's in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Mr. Jernigan, you too will be recommended to the full commission on April 17th for appointment to the school board. Thank you both for your desire to serve our community. Next, we need to announce a citizen vacancy on the Emergency Communications District Board. And also ask our assessor who stepped out. I don't know if he wanted us to announce the vacancy for the alternate. Guess we can announce that at the commission meeting. We can announce it at the commission meeting if that's what he really wants to do. All right, under any other business, I believe there's an item inadvertently left off of our agenda. I'm sorry.
You say they left it to Mr. Mitchell?
Well, I mean, obviously, they've had this ability to appoint an assessor, an alternate position.
I think it's a good idea they brought up earlier. And I think, that is, and Mr. Mitchell did say that,
We can do it.
that the
We can
person,
announce it.
it's a needed position, and there's times when someone's had to miss.
Yeah.
I'd like for us to.
So we'll announce a alternate position for the equalization board.
At the May meeting, the next May meeting.
No, they.
Well, we're announcing it today, so we will fill it
okay.
in May.
May.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Very well.
Mr. Mitchell's walked in, I guess, about announcing an alternate.
I just want to fight for a seat way over there.
About announcing the vacancy, an alternate.
The alternate going to announce it for.
Yeah.
For
Next
May.
month.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mr. Barbie's already said that if you were going to open it up, then you have to put his application back in.
Okay.
Great.
Wonderful. All right, any other business? Call on Sonia Stevenson, HR Director, to come to the table, if you will. She has prepared a letter, or memo, that she can present to us based upon item of discussion from last month regarding the pensions.
Good evening, first of all. The last meeting that we had, I brought forward to you some items about the Tennessee Consolidated Retirement System. Last year, during the budget time, it was brought up by several of the commissioners that they wanted that evaluated. So I put it on my calendar, and here I was bringing that forward to you for, not that necessarily there was any change recommended on my part, but you asked me to bring you some evaluations, and that's what I did the last meeting. Out of the last meeting, there were some more questions, and so it was requested to several of you said you were interested in wanting to know what the employees thought about the retirement plan. And so I took, we discussed taking the new hires from 2013, the full-time new hires. That ended up being 100 employees. And I sent out a survey to those 100 employees just to get back the information that was requested by this body. Several of the employees did not have email addresses, so I sent the survey to the department's point of contact for me. I sent that to them for them to forward on to the employees. This survey was anonymous, so I have no idea what departments responded. The whole purpose of it was so that we would get good feedback without them having to wonder that I would know who said it, that type thing. So I have no idea what departments responded or did not, so I could not tell you that at this point. But it was sent to all 100. So the survey was sent out on the 24th and was requested to be back on the 31st, and there were 10 questions. And they were just basic questions around benefits, those type things. Of the respondents, 74% ranked wanted a pension or defined benefit. 6%, I need to go back. First of all, out of the 100, only 33% responded. And that really is not a good representation of our group. 33%. I researched to see what normal averages would be of a good response, and they said 40 to 60% is a much better response. Had it been 53%, I would have felt better about it, but since only 33% responded. So I wanted you to know that these percentages that I'm going to give you are based on 33 people's perception of our plan.
But one thing too, the whole big picture here is, and I'm not saying this against any of the director or whoever you sent it to, but there were 35, 45, 46, 47, 48, 54 people that didn't have any emails. So there could be something that happened after you sent it out that could have been affected that as well. So I just wanted to make sure that there could have been something else happen that the employee may not have had to be able to come back. The opportunity. So I just wanted to make sure that was thrown out there as well.
And I didn't want to make that assumption that those departments didn't give it to them because I didn't know. So
If you don't know,
I don't know. I don't know who did it, so it's exactly right.
So basically, you don't know.
I don't know. I have no idea. I wanted to make them feel comfortable, so. But of those 33, 74% of them ranked that they wanted a pension or defined benefit. 6% said that they wanted a defined compensation. So that left the other 20% wanting a hybrid type plan. Also, there was a compensation satisfaction rate of 88%. The compensation satisfaction, what was tied into that was salary and benefits combined, and pension, you know, benefits, health insurance, and all that. So there was an 88% satisfaction rate, which I thought was pretty good. However, they said 52% said that if the benefits, outside of salary, of course, were discontinued, that they would leave the county. Would leave the county. And 40% said they would probably leave the county unless the salaries were raised to offset the loss of benefits, which that's normal. Lastly, 82% of the respondents were concerned about the availability of Social Security when they reached retirement age, and stating that having a secure retirement is very important to them. And that's a pretty normal statement. The next...
and those percentages are based on those 33?
33 people, yeah. So it really wasn't a good pool, but I wanted to bring the information back to you because you requested it. So the request number 2, I believe Commissioner Gooch, was posed by you, that what would it look like if we went to a straight defined contribution plan? Currently we have the defined benefit or the pension, and we talked about what a hybrid would look like, and you said what would it look like if we invested the same amount of money that we're investing today, which would be the 12%, 6% employees, 6% the county. What would the rate of return look like if we could find a plan that has a guaranteed rate of return? So I reached out to Nationwide, who is our current 457B provider. I reached out to Great West, which is the provider that TCRS currently has with their hybrid program. And I reached out to Edward Jones just because they're just a market provider. I just, called somebody and said, hey, what would this look like? What I used was the same numbers that I used in the presentation last month, which was an average of $30,000 a year annual salary, retirement at 30 years, and what would the pension look like on the same 12% that's invested currently. Employee 6, employer 6. So based on that, Nationwide said that they did not have a guaranteed rate of return for any 401 plan. However, they did have a guaranteed rate annuity with a maximum rate of return of 3%, or the Morley stable value with an average 1% rate of return. But they could not run a group plan. They just said they didn't have the capabilities to tell me what that would look like. So they did tell me, however, that, and all of these plans told me the same thing, that there was a 10% penalty for withdrawal prior to 59.5. Currently under our pension plan, if somebody has 30 years of service, they can retire. They could be 50 years old, okay? So they could retire because they put their 30 years in. Well, under these, if they retired under this type plan, and they take a penalty of 10% of whatever funds were in there to be able to draw. The other part is we have an early retirement of 55, where that's 4.5 years that they would have to take a 10% penalty because they were withdrawing early. So I wanted to make sure that everybody knew on all 3 plans it was the same. 59.5 was the earliest that it could be withdrawn without a penalty.
On the pension plan, if you retire at 50, is that 100? That's not 100% of what your pension would be at 59.
It is an adjusted rate,
okay,
based on your age, but it is full retirement. So.
It's a certain percentage per year for the full 30 years, or it could be up to 20, 25.
Then Great West stated, I talked to TCRS and the Great West rep, and they said they would not recommend any entity going to a straight defined contribution. Now, this is somebody who provides this plan to the state and is also one of the analysts from TCRS, because they said we're basing that assumption on people's ability to be disciplined enough to contribute and then not to withdraw when they had a need. On the defined contribution, when the money's put in, it's available to take out, but at a penalty. So if somebody put in and something that they felt like came up that they had to have that money and they withdrew it, then there would be no retirement for them later. They did run the projections for me though, based on the assumptions that I gave you earlier. On the hybrid plan, which is a part defined benefit and defined contribution, for a 30,000, 30 years, those type things, the fund would have $585,000 in it for that employee to draw over their lifetime and then their beneficiary in the event of death. Under the DC plan with the guaranteed rate of return at 7% guaranteed rate of return, it was $256,000 or 56% less in their fund. Under the hybrid plan, the employee would draw $1,181 a month. Under the DC, they would draw $533 per month, provided they set up a standard draw over the same period of time that the defined benefit had. So it's, half. Under the TCRS hybrid plan, the benefit will pay for a lifetime, but under the DC plan, it would only pay until the money runs out, which is what I explained to you earlier. If they set it up on the same $1,181 per month, it pays out over 12 years. Once the 12 years is up, it's gone. If they decide they want to take out more, it alleviates quickly after that. Under Edward Jones, they said they had a fixed indexed annuity which has up to a 3% rate of return at 20. He based it on a 20-year instead of 30 years. He didn't have the ability to do the 30. At 20 years, it would have $174,821. The TCRS hybrid would have $239,700, and as stated before, it would be based on what the monthly draw. And I think when we met about this earlier, if the commission did decide that there needed to be something done to the plan, there are options available. There's do nothing and assume the long-term debt. But if it's the wishes of the commission and something has to be done, there's the examples that I gave you in our prior meeting, which we make adjustments into the legacy plan that we're currently in, which would ensure a benefit long-term. There is the alternate defined benefit, which the Board of Education sent forward, and there is the hybrid plan, which is what the state has recommended. So there are several options. If the body decides that there's something that they wish to do, there's some options available to you. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Any questions for students?
Well, I'll throw out the same motion I made last month. I make a motion that we stay the course, we leave it like it is.
Second. Also submit that it's possible that the most important figure on here is not on here. And that's the 67% of the people that didn't respond who evidently don't want us to mess with it. Now, I'm just submitting that for your consideration. That may not be correct. And I also think something that is pretty obvious, I don't know if anybody else is going to respond. I got some feedback which pretty much stated what I just said. But if we're going to consider a new plan or some alterations to a plan, now my time here is going to be limited, and that's also true of a couple of other people sitting at this table. Maybe more than 2 or 3 will not be here. But if I were going to be a commissioner after this August and serve, well, I don't know any other way to put it. The mayor and the finance director and Ms. Stevenson, all of whom are sitting right here, would have to recommend something to me, because they are much more cognizant, I think I can say this fairly, than most commissioners, let's put it that way, on the inner workings of our pension plan. Now, is that fair? Am I being completely fair? I'm really trying to be.
I think you are, and all I've heard is one commissioner that's asked for this, that I've heard.
And that was me.
No.
Oh, I thought you were talking about,
No.
some feedback from me.
No, I'm talking about
Oh.
Origination.
the original.
Oh, okay. Right. No,
Let's
no,
call-
it wasn't me. Excuse me. I apologize. No.
Anyway, I second the motion.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if it'd be appropriate, but there's some county employees here that may want to chime in on this thing. If you want to open up, you're the chairman. But, you know, otherwise it looks like we're going down that route that we almost went on last month. So.
Yeah, I'm assume probably most of us were kind of the same place. We just wanted some time to look at it.
Sure.
Get feedback from other people and listen to people.
Sure.
I think we've all done that. I know I have.
I have.
I know. So, I mean, it's a wish. I mean, whatever the committee, if the committee wants to suspend the rules and get some feedback, but I've got a feeling that the vote's going to lead to what most everybody in the crowd would want to hear. But
Commissioner made a good statement there that the mayor and our finance director, you know, may come back with us on a budgetary issue. I don't know, is that a fact, or, I mean, are you all looking at this on a budgetary situation to bring before the budget committee, or you haven't?
Anything you do, any kind of change you make is not going to really affect budget projections for next year. Because what you're talking about are people who are not employed with Rutherford County and have not ever been employed by any government that was a member of TCRS. So it could be somebody sitting out there right now that works for Williamson County.
Right.
And then they come to work for us. They're not who we're talking about.
Well, I didn't know if we
They've never
implemented
been.
something. I knew it was new employees. I mean, we straightened
Right.
that out last month, but it
Right.
was as far as implementing something, if we did something, the big if, then it would be like January 1 of 15 or whatever. And so that's what I was wondering, if there was something that was brewing, then, you know, we throw it out there for this committee to talk about. If not, then I don't expect to see it at budget, and I'm on budget committee, so, you
Well,
know.
I think Sonia brought to you last time the different changes and really kind of what, if you were asking us to make a recommendation, Sonia brought that to you
Mhm.
last time. That's, if you're going to make a change, that's the recommendation that we would bring forward.
And I think how this, and I apologize if I'm speaking in turn, I think where this came from last year is when we were during the budget process, we were looking at our OPEB and our liability long-term for our benefit over time. And, you know, while it's, and also I mentioned in our last month's meeting that it's gonna start being a requirement that liability for long-term for whoever the existing population base is to be on our books. And so based on that conversation last year during the budget time, I believe is what prompted this request of me to research and bring back, which is what I did. So that it really is not in effect as much about the budget this year, our standard operating budget as it is now, as it is long-term on the OPEB liability, which is why we brought it forward to
On pension liability.
Right, pension liability. So that, I hope that helps.
We really are showing concern here for employees that we haven't hired yet. And I think we kind of came to a consensus last time that we wanted our pension plan to be a competitive, so we could hire the people. We didn't want them going somewhere else, and didn't want them leaving here after we trained them, if that's an issue. So I mean, it's not. I don't think this group is doing this at all. But it's very easy not to be concerned about people you don't even know that haven't been hired yet. But we need to be concerned about those people, because eventually they'll be 20-year employees, right?
That's right.
And I want them to have a good pension plan. They won't be here in the first place.
Well, back a few years back, we had a revolving door. We trained them, and it cost us quite a bit of money to train them, especially at the sheriff's office and EMS.
That's right.
And we've got the benefit package where we're trying to retain these people. And I think if we open this door on new ones, we're gonna have the same revolving door that continuously and have to train and retrain. It costs a lot of money to send somebody to the law enforcement academy. It costs a lot of money to have someone, you know, to maybe come in as an EMT and then trying to go and be a paramedic. You know, it costs you money to train someone in the register of deeds office, or the clerk's office, or the property assessor's office. You know, so we need to do something to retain these people, and because it costs money to train. So that's my thought. Retaining retention.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Any other business?
I just want to sort of make one similar kind of comment. We agree with basically all of these comments. Right now, we're having, in county general, we have to contribute 12.8% of the base salary into this pool of money. Now, that 12.8% is subject to change. The performance, that is all based on projections that the state of Tennessee, TCRS, those people that are managing those funds, can make it earn at least 7% per year out into the future. If that happens out into the future, we can still pay the 12.8%, but let's suppose it doesn't happen. And we've had one iteration here which it didn't happen substantially. We're gonna have to do some careful, thoughtful studies, some actuarial studies, and I just told Lisa we probably ought to just invest some money in some actuarial studies. If that 7% doesn't happen, if it drops to 6% or 5% or 4%, TCRS is gonna tell us up your 12.8%. They're gonna make us pay 15, 16, 17. At some point, if certain factors were to be aligned, we wouldn't be able to fund the future liabilities of this. And we don't have enough information right now to tell you how that's going to happen or what the likelihood of that's going to happen. But if it does happen, we have to fund this defined benefit plan. So I think we should give serious thought to maybe investing a few dollars. It might be a few $1,000s, several $1,000s to get some professional assistance to look into the future, because this is what this is all about. Can we sustain this responsibility into the future? 10 years, 20 years, 50 years from now, we must be able to sustain it. We don't know yet if that's possible. That's the very reason the state of Tennessee has changed their plan. They've modified that plan. So I think we have enough time to really study about this. It's not going to affect us this next budget year, but somebody has to deal with this, just like we had to deal with the health insurance. Somebody has to pay those responsibilities that go into the future if we're going to have these benefits, or else we'll lose the whole benefit package, and that's what we all know is so very, very important.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate all the work that y'all put into all this. I know it's many, many hours and hours.
So how should we respond to that, Mr. Mayor? If that needs to be in the budget then?
But we may put enough dollars in there to allow for some professional assistance.
And it will be what ifs, because we've just got our rate for the next 2 years, and it's decreased.
A slight decrease.
A slight decrease. It's 12.69 now, going to 11.97. We've got a slight decrease.
But if I'm not mistaken, in 2000, let's see what years is 2014, 2010, 2009 was when the economy kind of went stale. 2010, when they gave us our rates, they did a projection out. If it stayed the way it was in 2009, what would it look like? Was it 2028 or 2030? I can't remember, but it did the rate structure about if you're here now, where would you be if it stayed the way it was? And our rate would go to like, it was like 30%. So it's 30% of your salaries, like the total county salary. So we look at what rate we're at right now at 12. That's where I believe when the discussion was brought about, that's where the concern came from, if it did. While we're going down now because the economy's good and
investments were better. I mean,
and we pray that they continue to increase, but
when they were having that discussion, our rate was 12.64.
Right.
And then these last 2 years, I mean,
Went to
that's what we were
12.69
thinking it was
and
really
11.7.
going to be terrible. It went up 12.64 to 12.69, and then we've got a rate a decrease to below it was below 2 years ago.
And I think the actuarial studies that you're talking about, Mayor, I think TCRS ran the studies to give me the numbers that they gave already. So, but that's where the discussion came from initially. That's what initiated it.
So if the market's doing good,
Our
rate goes down.
Go down.
And if it-
It's about they're sitting with cash and investing it. So if the investments are good, and then they look at the liability of how much, assume everybody in this room is a county employee, and they look at what we will cost, and they look at those assets and they'll say, okay, the market's good, we've got enough assets to pay these projected liabilities. But if the market is not good, and we're still here looking for a pension, the county is the one that it has to make up that difference.
And they have 14 of the highest ranked analysts in the state working for TCRS, which, you know.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recognize Mr. Bradshaw.
Thank you. Let me say first, I have the highest respect for Mr. Burgess and Lisa and Sonia. They're outstanding administrators, but I couldn't let what Mr. Burgess said or what Lisa said go by without that TCRS has a 40-year history. It's an outstanding history. We rate at the very top of all of the similar retirement systems in the country.
What's wrong with there?
On just 2 weeks ago in USA Today, they had a big story about all the bad pensions, and they said, oh, except for Nebraska, Wisconsin, and Tennessee. We don't need to be running scared. They have Democrats and Republicans alike for 40 years have run this program in a sound, actuarially sound way. The big scare came when we had the worst recession since the Great Depression, and they made all these projections based on an 8,000 level in the Dow. What's it running? 15,000, something like that. And as Lisa said, the rate that we're having to pay is actually going down. What these projections of 30%, that's wild speculation as far as I'm concerned. This program is run soundly. It's provided not extravagant benefits, but a benefit that is solid. And I just could not let that go by. This is a solid program. It's a great track record, and you still got conservative, good people running.
Who made the projections that could be 20?
TCRS did.
So the pension plan that you praise is the one that's making those unfounded, is what you call it, accusations that it could go to 30%. What I got from the mayor is this is, we need to plan out 20, 30 years, 50 years. If we're facing a 20 or 30% match or whatever, taxpayers can't sustain that. And that's what got the conversation going. And then so it'll be a situation where taxes would increase greatly, and we probably couldn't hire people, or we may have to lay off. So I think this is wise that we're looking at this long-term plan. But the pension plan that you praise is the one that's making these predictions.
The pension plan that I praise has had a 40-year track record.
Yes, it has, and it's because they're charging those rates. Then if those rates go
it's because
higher,
they're wisely invested.
Right, but if those rates go to 30%, which you could, 20%, then the taxpayers.
I guess anything is possible.
Anything's possible.
And I wanna say, none of the three of us are advocating leaving TCRS. That is on, none of us wanna advocate leaving TCRS, so please let me say that.
Yeah.
We do not wanna leave our retirement plan. It's just, if there's something to make it 20, 30 years from now more achievable for the county and taxpayers.
And I'm glad you said that, because when the county employees they called me and I've talked to, that rumor is out there, and I told them I took up for the administration. That's not a true statement. It was brought up by a county commissioner wanting it looked at. It's how it was brought up in the budget last year, and so I'm glad you said that.
That's been some confusion. None of us are advocating leaving TCRS. It's just that if there's some tweaks need to be made into the plan in order to make it 20 years from now easier on the budget and the taxpayers, and that was what I brought forward. I shouldn't say we, I brought it forward. So.
Mayor.
I just want to say that the treasurer, the state of Tennessee, and these 14 top-notch best people in the world, they are the very ones that have brought forth their proposal to make these changes to make TCRS sustainable into the future. And they have already adopted some of those changes for the state of Tennessee.
If I could, there was a meeting that was held, that was all the elected officials and all the department heads where Mr. Lillard from TCRS did a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation. And I think what we've got, what I'm picking up from the different groups is the lack of communication gap. That presentation basically, Mayor Burgess is exactly right, that the TCRS themselves were making recommendations about the stability of the TCRS, with some suggestions that would help with the stability of the TCRS. None of which would be bad for the employees currently. I think there's a lot of fear when you start talking about people's pensions, and these numbers and these graphs and these charts are very frightening. A lot of misinformation out there currently about, that we're trying to do away or take away someone's pension. That is absolutely not the case. What I believe everyone is trying to do is say, we're looking at the sustainability of a pension plan long-term for Rutherford County, and being sure that whatever options we offer to future new employees, we can meet those obligations. That presentation, and I have a copy of that PowerPoint somewhere, I think had some, and I'm not just, what Sonia's provided you is very good, but that particular one, when you have the fund manager, of which Mr. Lillard is like the fund manager of the TCRS, when you have him come in and say, these are some suggestions and recommendations I am making, you should listen to that person. He's the one managing the fund. He's the one who knows what the strength of that fund is or the weaknesses of that fund are. So I would encourage everyone to perhaps have a copy of that presentation that comes directly from the horse's mouth, the very person who manages that fund. This is very important. We can't allow fear to make our decisions here. This is everyone's livelihood and pensions for generations to come, and I just really think there's a lot of fear and communication gap going on here that we need to be very careful. We need to heed advice that we get from those who have that type of knowledge.
That was the first thing that came out last week, last month, was all the employees thought we're getting ready to change their pension plan.
Yeah.
That was, no, we're not. This is talking about new hires, and so it was all that weight was lifted off their shoulders. It's like, no, we're not doing that.
Based on fear, so we've got to.
But it's still out there.
Oh yeah, it's still out
I know.
there. Well, it'll always be out there.
Well, and like Commissioner Jordan said, we also have to be mindful that we can't just not think about that new person that's coming in. You still got to have something that's a good benefit package. So that's part of what this discussion was for, is to make something that would be.
I guarantee you, and I said this last month, and I'll just use law enforcement for example, okay? You take someone coming in here that's got all the credentials, and they're looking at Rutherford County Sheriff, they're looking at Murfreesboro Police, they're looking at Smyrna Police, they're looking at Laverne Police, they're looking at THP or whoever, and they could be a first round draft choice, basically, which you might call it, or whatever. And everybody want them. That person's going to pick where they can get the best pay and the best benefits. And a lot of times they look at the benefits over the pay sometimes. And I just think we need to be prepared on both sides of it for the future, and also but be prepared to be able to retain and bring these good, just like we got now, good employees. We need to bring in some more good employees to replace these good employees that may be retiring in the future. So that's where I'm at.
I'm not sure, Fred, how much really conflict we have here between our comments here, and absolutely, I've got tremendous confidence in TCRS. I really do. Okay, and you spoke of 40 years of conservative, sound investing and planning for the future and so forth, and you're exactly and precisely right. But so is Rutherford County, a lot more than 40 years. And that's what these folks over there want to do. But they want to be ready to handle any problem that a 2008 and 9 hit us with again. I don't think that's unreasonable at all, to be very cautious with our future obligations. I don't think we disagree.
Well, our county has been run very conservatively, at the same time progressively. Conservatively with regard to funding, with regard to taxation, progressively with regard to schools, sheriff's departments, and other departments and so forth. My concern is that we don't run scared with regard to this. I saw it happen. I went up to the legislature and saw it happen. I saw the debates. They threw out Detroit. They threw out Illinois. They threw out Rhode Island. And they were comparing that to us. And nobody was listening. That the Tennessee Consolidated Retirement System is sound. But they scared them into passing this legislation. I tried to fight it there for a couple of years. It didn't work because they scared them to death. And they were throwing out these terrible situations when we were sitting here with the best in the country. And they still changed it. I talked to Mr. Lillard that day, and I pointed out that the projections that they were using were from 2008, 2009. He didn't have an answer. He came into office. He is certainly a professional. He's also a professional politician. He came into office at the direction of the governor, and that's what they wanted to do, was to reduce the benefits in the TCRS. They wanted to make it a defined contribution program. They settled on the higher, but they did not need to do anything then. So I've been watching this. I respect our state governments and our county government the way they run conservative. Certainly Tennessee's in a better situation than many, or probably most of the states, and certainly with the retirement. But I can tell you, I saw an agenda to diminish the TCRS, regardless of its soundness. And I just don't want to see that happen here in Rutherford County. We have the choice. The legislature, in its wisdom, at least gave us the choice of following them or not. They're not cramming it down our throats, which is a good thing. And I appreciate everyone looking at it. But we have that choice, and I don't want it to be crammed down our throats, and I don't want us to be buffaloed into it. Like that, I saw the legislature do that. They were buffaloed into it.
Any other business?
I just had one very brief statement to make. My career before the position I'm in now was in insurance and finance. When you're doing projections, insurance companies will give you a worst case scenario. It is built into the blood. Actuaries will give you a worst case scenario. It's built on a snapshot from a particular point in time and goes forward. It's never accurate because the base rate under that you're operating under shifts over time because nothing is static. We need to keep that in account. If you want to do another study, it will be entirely different. It will show a different projection because the base rate it's based on will be different. The other thing is, if you make any substantial changes, you will still be obligated to maintain the payments that you're making to the current people under the plan. As that pool diminishes, you will still have to maintain the payments to make that up. As that pool diminishes, the amount that you're going to have to pay per capita per employee for that pool will increase. So you'll in essence be operating two plans simultaneously. one will always get more expensive as people in that are participating in it shrinks. So by making a change, you are not necessarily getting a better bang for your buck or lowering your future budgetary constraints at all. You're just adding another line of expense that you'll have to maintain. That's just something you should consider when you're thinking about making any changes, that if you have two systems, one's always going to be grandfathered in, and you always have to fund it.
All right. We are adjourned.